the things I want to address is to live in magnificence, to live a really cool life, one that you enjoy, and that cool and stuff would be defined by you, of course, not by me. My life is cool. I love it. I'm sitting in a 400-year-old house in a Swiss village. It's mainly organic. The kids are outside playing. I could go on and on and on, but what I want to talk about today is about the capacity to make distinctions within what I call the shadow world. Now, if you have my book, you'll see the chart there, and there's where we run in the pristine operating system, the system that is what we come on running with, and then the antiquated, enculturated system. And if we get into the enculturated system, a lot of times we fail to have the capacity to make distinctions, and by not being able to make distinctions, we can't see where to move from there. And we're in the world of the mind, which my definition is that little voice inside your head. Yes, we all have a little voice inside of our head. That little voice inside your head that tells you usually something's wrong, it's not very many good things. But I'm going to talk today about the heart chakra. And what exists on the heart chakra is happy and sadness, compassion and judgment. Sadness and judgment being in the enculturated learned realm, compassion and happiness, things that we don't have to learn, things that we came out of the planet knowing. But if we can make distinctions in this area, then we can see how to move around in these areas and actually revel in these areas. One of my first videos that has ever hit the internet was So Happy to Be So Sad, and I was appreciating sadness around the fact that a friend of mine was passing away. But looking at the heart chakra, years ago I was at lunch with a business client of mine, and I asked his wife, "What do you want?" Because I ask a lot of people, "What do you want?" And then I look for the response. I look curiously to see what actually is the response. Are they going to move towards more curiosity or less curiosity? And she said she wanted to be happy. Then she got up and left the table, and her husband and I continued to discuss business, and then she came back and left again, and came back and left again, and came back a third or fourth time. I wasn't really paying attention. She said, "How often do you do that?" And I said, "I'm not sure what you mean." She said, "Well, you asked me what I wanted." And I said, "Huh?" She said, "I've been in the bathroom crying my eyes out." And I said, "Okay, what do you think I did?" She said, "Well, you started it." I said, "You told me the truth, what you wanted. What you really wanted, what most of us want is to be happy. Most people really want to be happy. It looks like it to me." And I said, "You stated the truth, but if you have a lot of enculturated sadness in you, sadness that you've learned, and then you learn that you can't express it, you can't show it for societal reasons, that sadness builds up, and it takes up a lot of your RAM memory to where you struggle to be happy." I said, all you're doing is allowing that sadness to come up and out of your system, and as it comes up and out, it frees up some of the RAM memory so that you can go back to your natural state, your normal state of happiness. The dilemma there is a lot of people, when they experience sadness, want to think that they know what sadness is about. And that's a tough thing, because you never know what sadness is about. I mean, if you're at a funeral, you can pretty much figure it out. But a friend of mine, his mom came to visit with me. He had passed away from cancer, and she said, "I can't get over my son and his death." And I said, "Well," she said, "every place I walk into reminds me of him, and I start crying." And I said, "Well, you sure it's not the other way around?" And she said, "I don't know what you mean." I said, "Well, perhaps every place you walk into, you get impacted by sadness, and all of a sudden the main trigger would be, of course, your son, because he's just passed away." And we talked about it, and at some point she was crying and crying and crying and letting the sadness up and out. And she looked around, and she was in complete wonder as tears streamed down her face. And she looked around, and she said, "Oh my God, I see what you're trying to say." She said, "The sadness is out here, right? In this sea of mediocrity, in this sea of emotion, in this sea of enculturated unconsciousness, a lot of people are walking around sad." And she finally got it. She got that the sadness may have been a lot of time outside, to where she would absolutely be the receiver for it, because she was so vulnerable to that sadness. But it helped her get on with her life. Later, I was doing a class in England, and a young lady came in, and she had been diagnosed the day before and put on antidepressants, which I recommend that if you're going to do my classes, don't do drugs in my classes, even recreational ones. It messes with the process. There's things that we have to do. But she had just started on them, said that she was diagnosed with depression, And partway through a conversation with her, I looked at her and I said, well, I said, here's the truth, you're not depressed. I said, there's some sadness and conflict, which again, those are on the same chakra levels. Conflict, sadness reside on the 4th chakra. And I said, there's sadness and conflict in your life, and it seems like there's a major conflict, but there's not much depression. There, also attending the class was a medical doctor, and he absolutely had a shit fit. He told me that I was a chiropractor, which I am, and that I was absolutely outstepping my bounds of chiropractic, that I wasn't doing chiropractic, that I could not make the diagnosis, clinical diagnosis of depression. I told him I felt that I was almost more qualified than most people to make that diagnosis because I never got it from a book. My father committed suicide. Now, I appreciate that. I love Dad. I think that it was a tremendous act of courage, and there's a lot of pressures and views on that, which I'm not going to go into my own personal views on it. But my dad was a depressed person, depressed enough to commit suicide, so pretty much I know when I see a depressed person. When I asked this young lady what the conflict was, immediately she knew. Boom. Right? Because we had hit the mark. We'd made the distinction. We had gotten to where her problem, if you will, lie. And I said, okay, what's the big conflict? And she said, well, my husband and I want to have another baby, and we can't because he loves his work. He really does. She said, I listened to you talk about people loving their work, and he does. He absolutely loves what he does, and I would never want to take that away from him, but he doesn't make much money, and therefore we can't afford to have another child. And I said, okay, that's always a bad reason not to have a child. I mean, everybody who thinks about having children, that will be one of the first things they say. I mean, if, unless you're living in absolute wealth and opulence or money, let's say that. But we got talking, and then a clarity came to her, which is what the class is about. It's not about clarity coming to me, it's about clarity coming, and a clarity came to her, and she saw a solution. And what she said was, wait a minute, my father has been, I used to work for my dad. I loved working in the administration of his business, and he loves having me there. When I got pregnant, I left, but he's been bugging me to come back and bring my son, because the dad loved having the daughter and the grandson around. So she went back to work for the dad and got pregnant again because she saw the solution, saw that she didn't have to depend upon the normal ways of thinking to have a solution to your life. A lot of things that we'll do is we'll break the paradigm, we'll break the box that you're currently sitting in to allow you to think a little bit differently. Just quickly on that note, also, one of the things that I ask in my classes is who can take your happiness away? Now, a lot of people say, well, if I'm firmly entrenched in my happiness, nobody can take it away. And I'm not sure that's true. A lot of times I wait until a person is out way in their happiness, almost in that giddy state of happy, and I'll say something caustic and mean, almost vile. And 98% of the time, their happiness goes away. I've snatched it so cleanly and so thoroughly, they don't even know it's gone. I think that's the way life is. But my book explains a little bit more. The website does. We'll continue to do these video blogs. www.micpeakperformance.com is my, whatever it is, website. Thanks for listening. Have a fun day. Bye.